In sports, if you want to be the best, there are no off days. This is the No Off Days podcast. I am Scott Smith. Chris Cato to my left.
I'm Chris.
Hi, Chris. Chris wearing a new collection. Would you tell us about the t-shirt
I'm wearing my new
today?
Pearl Jam G.I. Joe themed shirt. I picked this up at the big concert.
G.I. Joe, American,
the real American
hero.
Who was that guy? He was always fighting G.I. Joe.
Cobra. The enemy.
Yeah, but we never saw G.I. Joe, did we? He was not one person.
No, it was the group, right?
It was the whole team. Yeah.
I don't remember any of their names. I feel like I should now.
Recon? Wasn't Recon one of them?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Snake Eyes. That was one
there
of the
we go.
bad guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how Pearl Jam went to G.I. Joe, but anyway.
Well, the shirt, it's kind of it's military themed. Anyway, welcome into a fresh new pod as we kind of obviously have to dissect what's going on here in Tampa Bay with some of our area teams, and namely the Bucs, and we'll get into that momentarily. Coming off the heels of that Monday night loss against the Ravens, and just, I mean, this is just devastating. You hate to see what went down with the Bucs in losing not just one but two key players, maybe their two best players on the entire team, and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So we'll talk about what kind of is up next for them. But with that, let's bring in BK and give us a little teaser as to who and what to expect on the program today.
First of all, we're going to have a guest picker, mystery guest picker.
Oh, is it another mystery?
Yeah, so let's keep it a surprise until this segment.
Well, Chris booked it, so I think he knows.
Is it another crew member? You know, last week we had Mariah, our jib camera operator.
Yeah.
That was a smashing success.
Did she take us out back of woodshed with her?
Mariah had the exact same record as you two guys did. It was two and three across the board.
Okay.
How are we all 2 and 3?
Yeah.
We
all lost a variety of different games, finding new and exciting ways to lose. Yeah, that Georgia-Texas game, that was a tough one. I mean, to your point, and I got to give you credit, you said, Texas hasn't played anybody. So, Georgia still has all the weapons, and they put those on display last week, and I think Texas was exposed a little bit. But I want to get into some SEC stuff, too, because, BK, you and I had an interesting discussion back in the sports office earlier this week about kind of the pathway for some SEC teams now that you've started to get this kind of muddle in the middle of the season.
The muddle in the middle? I like
muddle
that.
in the middle, and who could be coming out of this thing, and how you contrast that against other conferences like maybe the Big 12, where you may have a handful of teams with 0 to 1 loss at the end of the season. The playoff committee is going to have still some difficult decisions, even though we are expanding to a 12-team playoff. All right, and at the end of the program.
It is a program. How about NODPOD Gazette? Haven't done that in a while.
Okay.
So maybe a little November, fall, kind of October, Thanksgiving kind of. Thanksgiving's a month away theme, yeah.
The leaves have turned.
I'm ready for it.
And the lies are still churning.
For it too.
I mean, the last few days we've actually started to have some. It started to tilt toward fall weather a little bit.
Our fall is the humidity falling by 5 degrees. That helps. We'll take it.
Our fall is anybody else's like summer or spring.
Sure.
But it felt nice. I was able to go outside and just enjoy it. I didn't sweat within the first 3 seconds.
That's why you wore the long sleeve shirt today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to dress things up. I sweat through my other shirt. So, yeah. Okay. Very good, BK. We will catch up with you momentarily. If you're listening and you want to watch, go to fox13news.com/NODPOD. If you're watching and you want to listen or subscribe, take out your phone. You can zap that QR code on the screen in the bottom right-hand corner, and there you can find all of our shows. We invite you to subscribe, fox13news.com/NODPOD. Please leave a kind 5-star review. And I did see, I don't really go back and check the 5 stars, but I did share one with you and BK that I went back and looked at earlier this week.
Is that our only 5-star?
It was Drew something or other, and it was quite humorous. It wasn't our only, but one of very few.
It was well written. I would
Yes.
say Drew has a way with words.
You know what? Maybe next time maybe at the end of the show we could bring it up and we could read the review as a way to incentivize other people to leave 5-star reviews.
Yeah,
that aren't too insulting.
Right. Maybe we read some of the insulting ones too.
Okay.
Just to it's like.
Yeah, I mean, if you're
read the bad
insulting
tweets.
Chris, then I'll definitely read it. All right, so let's start first here at home. Obviously, coming off the heels of that loss to the Ravens, and in it, it's like the result. Who cares really at this point? I mean, it's one loss in the middle of the season, but it really is the loss of Chris Godwin for the rest of the year. As Todd Bowles says, maybe if a deep playoff run happens, he can come back at the end of the season. Nobody's making on that. A nasty ankle dislocation, so bad that the Fox broadcast crew would not replay the game. So that gives you kind of a hint as to how bad it looked. But the question coming out of it was, why was he even in the game? Down 10 points in the game's last couple minutes. At this point, they were out of timeouts. And so it was one last gasp, but they had scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. So really, I mean, their ability to even score that much in that short a time was remarkable, because at one point, I believe it was 41-18, and the Ravens had scored 34 points in a row. So the game felt like it was lost. I mean, I think people started heading for the exits about third quarter in this one. But, here's the issue. Like, I totally understand the idea of why is he in the game, but to me, it feels like an unproductive conversation. And because it's easy to go back and say, oh, well, obviously, like, it's not worth an injury, and it's not worth an injury. I mean, if you could go back and know, what you know now, obviously you pull him, like, that's a clear decision. But I'm curious to you if you felt like, that the starters, you never know. Look, they had recovered one onside kick already. Perhaps there is a chance late in this game to do what many would think would be inconceivable, and pull it off. But what were your thoughts on Godwin on the field at the end?
Well, I think you said it a moment ago when you said the Bucs scored 21 points, and just like that, like in a matter of a few minutes. Yeah, it would have taken a small miracle for them to come back, but they were still fighting.
A little bit bigger and a small. Little bit.
Okay, it would have, yeah. But we have seen crazier things. They had recovered one onside kick already. What's to say it couldn't happen again? And so, yeah, you're still out there slinging it. I mean, and you're minus your number one receiver, Mike Evans, obviously, so you would want Godwin out there. And I know that Godwin wants to be out there. I had more of a problem with people immediately reacting, whether it was on social media or in Todd Bowles' post-game news conference, even raising that question, because this is the NFL. I mean, these guys are playing to still try to win. Plus, there are player bonuses built into these skill players' contracts that they want to play for. What if Chris Godwin scores a touchdown there in that final minute 30, and that helps him achieve some financial incentive at the end of the year? I don't have a problem with it. That's what these guys, that's what they do. That's what they come to work to do. They come to play the full 60 minutes. Baker's still out there playing. Yeah.
And I kind of line up there with you as well. And I'm not opposed to pulling players when you don't want to risk injury. I mean, I get that. I was pretty harsh on FSU's decision to play Jordan Travis last year in a cupcake game. And obviously, I was saying this in hindsight, saying he shouldn't have been playing in that game, let alone having a devastating injury to end his collegiate career. But to me, that was a game you were going to win. You were going to win that game with or without Jordan Travis, and there was so much at stake. The season was resting in the balance.
Yeah.
You had to run the table in the ACC, obviously, in order to get there. But this situation, it feels like when was the appropriate time to pull Chris? When was the right time to take him out? When the team was down by
If you're going to do it when it's 41-18.
I mean, I think the division is still very much up for grabs. I don't think it changes any of that. I don't think it's like, okay, all your cards into the middle of the table, we're done. You don't have to check out. I think that there's still a lot of promise. The question is now, do we see any more Chris Godwin? Contract year, will he be back with the Bucs? Will they want to bring him back and negotiate another deal? How does this affect his negotiating price when he goes and hits the free agency market? I mean, I think he means so much to this franchise that you have to think that if the recovery process goes well, surgery goes well, that the Bucs have to make every effort to bring this guy back. He means so much to this team and has just been a consummate pro through everything, through battling the number 2 position, not being the star guy in Mike Evans, and then also just coming back over and over again from injury. Nobody works harder than this guy. So you'd love to see him back, but he's going to go out there and hit the free agency market. There's no guarantee that he's going to be back in red and pewter.
Well, I hope he is, and I think I think their locker room needs him back and wants him back. But to your question about where the Bucs go from here, do they go acquire someone? Maybe they do. I don't know. I'm actually kind of excited to see what Liam Cohen does here. I think he tries to lean more into the ground game. I mean, you have a productive backfield there with Rashad White, Bucky Irving, Sean Tucker coming on. Liam Cohen ran a scheme at Kentucky that leaned on the ground game quite a bit. I think Baker can work into that as well. So it's almost, no, we don't want this situation with Godwin and now Evans out for probably, 3 weeks or so at least. But it's almost exciting to see what this offense can morph into. I think they've got the talent, as Todd Bowles said, in-house to make this work.
All right, to the other big conundrum here in the Tampa Bay area, and that is, where do the Rays play next week? Obviously, coming off the heels of the recent hurricanes, the Trop is, it's been ruined. The roof is
now the world's largest spirit Halloween.
Exactly.
That's what they've done with it.
No doubt. Yeah, it's an RV park for now. So where do they go from here? And we've been kicking around options, and everybody kind of has their own 2 cents as to what makes the most sense. And we'll get to our picks in just a minute as to what we think makes the most sense. But I thought Rob Manfred came out earlier this week and made some interesting comments saying that they're going to make every effort that they can to keep the team in the market. So that's not down to Miami. That's not to Orlando. That's in, I take that as the TV market, not just Central Florida
that's how
in general.
Take it, yeah.
And, and they're going to be playing next year. So wherever that is, but they still, of course, have to assess with the Trop, the extent of those damages. I can't imagine a scenario in which they're back inside the Trop next year at any point.
You don't think so mid-season? I mean, we don't know yet. We don't know the status of...
Well, I think it's going to get to the inevitable question is what's worth it? I know that there's insurance that covers these type of things, and I believe there's multiple insurance policies that are through the city of St. Pete for that. But if it's a $50 million upgrade, and who knows what's damaged inside the stadium in terms of electronics, the stuff that's been exposed to the elements, even if insurance does cover it, what's worth it? Is it worth it? Can you find something that is a good 3-year patch until you're ready to unveil the new stadium? And maybe this even expedites the process of getting that stadium up and going, because you can level the Trop early, and maybe that helps a little bit in terms of getting construction equipment in and moving things around. I'm not sure. But if you had your top choice where the Bucs or where the Rays play next season, it is what, Chris?
I don't like any of these options because they don't have a roof. They're not covered, and you're going to have all of the options they've discussed so far are minor league stadiums in the area, right? And then possibly outside the area, you're looking at the Disney complex, which has some scheduling issues as well.
They floated the idea of Hard Rock. So that is covered. Obviously, you'd have to do some.
Yeah, but you don't want that. Okay, to Manfred's idea of keeping it in this area, let's get those aside. We're not doing Hard Rock. We're not doing Orlando. If you're looking at minor league stadiums in this area, I'll throw these out real quick. You know them well. In Clearwater, you got the Phillies Park, Dunedin, where the Blue Jays played some of their COVID season there, and Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, which, if you're just asking me which I would pick, I would want that to work, because just for attendance, I think that would be so exciting to have the Rays on this side of Tampa Bay and to see what the turnout and I think that would be the best thing for the team in terms of fans attending, and I think it would be an exciting environment. But again, the issue with all these parks, the fact that we live in Florida in the summer, you can count on, like death and taxes, you can count on an evening thunderstorm and an afternoon thunderstorm. So I just think there would be way too many weather delays and postponements for any of these minor league parks on this side of Florida to work.
Yeah, well, I think that's what it's going to have to be, and you can massage the schedule to try to get some earlier start times, early afternoon start times, and as the season, I don't know exactly what the heart of your rainy season is.
June 1st, usually the spigot turns on June 1st.
Okay, so if you altered kind of that chunk of season, that 2.5 month stretch of mostly road games or mostly early games, like perhaps you can avoid some of it, but it's just going to be baked into the cake. But yeah, I'm with you. My number one choice, and I would love to see it, Steinbrenner Field right here in Tampa. I mean, we've been talking for so long about Hillsborough County versus Pinellas, like which side of the bridge is better for this team and its longevity. Here you'll get to see it, and I know everybody says, oh, well, the Yankees aren't going to cooperate. It's not necessarily up to the Yankees. This is a Major League Baseball decision as well. Rob Manfred has every incentive to make this work. He's already said, hey, we want to keep them in the market. So it sounds like it's going to be one of those minor league ballparks. So does Major League Baseball come in and kind of say, hey, we're going to Bigfoot this decision, and we're going to tell you what you're going to do? And let me just tell you why Steinbrenner is the best. Okay, so out of all the options for minor league ballparks, it has the highest capacity. I think you're right around 12,000 fans. It's obviously located great. Just you don't want to be driving down Del Mabry on game day. You don't want to be driving down Del Mabry during rush hour traffic. Yeah. But yes, in addition to that, they have multiple options for other there's multiple fields on that complex. So the Tarpons can play. They'd have to accommodate their schedule a little bit, but there's a field just south, and I believe that's where their fall complex league plays games. But there's other options there. I mean, they have maybe 4 other fields that can potentially be retrofitted to manage a single A ball club.
We have fields on fields here in Tampa. We have fields we aren't even using.
And then as far as like signage, that's like an easy fix. Yeah. Like you're not going to take away any like semblance. I mean, it's going to kind of have that same kind of Yankee Stadium feel, but like you can put up temporary signage and all that kind of stuff and make it the Rays ballpark. Maybe there's a compensation that comes the Yankees' way. Any number of things. Maybe there's a percentage of the
Haven't the Yankees taken enough of our talent already? They could give us a little minor league
we
stadium.
Should mention that field, that stadium is 100% publicly financed. So, I mean, it really kind of, I think that there's an argument to be made that would make the most sense. Number 2 is probably Al Lang Stadium, though not ideal because you're going to have to put the Rowdies somewhere. That stadium only holds about 7,000. You have to rework it. You're going to have to put a baseball diamond in it. And where do the Rowdies go? Do they go play over at Jefferson High School? I mean, the Rowdy season, it basically, it's the same time as the baseball. I think it runs March to October. So
I've got my number 2 is the one in Sarasota because they don't have the minor league conflict. And it's a good park.
Yeah. What, Al Smith?
Is that Ed Smith? Ed Smith, yeah.
Okay. That's where the Orioles play,
yeah.
So
still in the market.
Yeah,
I'd love to see Steinbrenner, though. That would be number 1.
Yeah, and I think the Disney complex, it's out of market. That's probably my number 3. It's nice, it's open, it's vacant, it's in a major metro, but you're relocating your team in that situation. People aren't commuting down I-4 every day to go play baseball games.
That's a nightmare.
You're relocating. You might as well move the team to Poughkeepsie because you're relocating everybody, and that's staff, that's everybody, and that would be a disaster. And I think that people will have their opinions vocalized if you end up doing that. Especially if you're looking at not just a 1-year patch or a half a season patch, but you're looking at maybe the whole 3-year stretch. You got to find something that works. To me, it's really like a no-brainer. You got to make Steinbrenner Field work in some capacity.
Is there not a FEMA tarp big enough to put over the trop?
Yeah, just a bunch of blue Home Depot tarps. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, get some bungee cords, keep it together. All right, coming up on the other side, we want to dive into this SEC, the muddle in the middle of the season. Who's going to come out of the SEC and make it to this playoff? Who's making it to the championship game? There's been a little bit of a leveling of the field, and, well, we tried to give Georgia the kiss of death, but they just won't go down. Stay with us. The NODPOD is next. All right, let's dive into college football. We saw over the last weekend Georgia flexing their muscle against Texas and saying, hey, you know what? We ain't getting knocked down from the peg that easily. Georgia looked really good in that game. Texas, to your point, they really hadn't played anybody, and I think it showed. But as we I want to lay out some scenarios and kind of give you my thoughts on what I think the rest of the season might look like for the SEC, and then maybe we could dig through it and figure out what are the teams that are going to be making the playoffs out of the Southeastern Conference. So, when I look at Georgia, the rest of the stretch sitting at 6-1 overall, 4-1 in SEC play. Who do they have left? They got Florida. They got Ole Miss out on the road. They got Tennessee, UMass, Georgia Tech. So you got some challenging games in there. Obviously, the biggest potential pitfalls are the visit to Ole Miss and then Tennessee at home. But my best guess is I think Georgia, if they look like what they looked like last week against Texas, if that's the Georgia we're going to see moving forward, I think they run the table. So I'm looking at a team that finishes 11-1 overall, 7-1 in SEC play. So that would include out-of-conference win against Clemson. You got wins against Texas, potentially wins against Ole Miss, Tennessee, and your only loss of the season coming against Bama. Texas, similar. Look, their road forward is a lot easier. So they've already beaten out of conference. They got a nice win against Michigan, even though Michigan's not that great. Oklahoma, and down the stretch, I think they go 5-0. They have, I think, the toughest opponents down the stretch are Arkansas and A&M. A&M's going to be a home tilt for Texas. So you mentioned that off the top of, I think, our previous episode when you said that A&M Texas game is going to be a play-in for the playoff, and it could very well be. Yeah. So if you have an 11-1 Georgia team, an 11-1 Texas team, you think, well, okay, that's probably got to be your SEC championship game. But if you look at Texas A&M right now, ranked 14th as we sit, they have LSU, South Carolina on the road, out of conference against New Mexico State, at Auburn, and Texas. And they're at 6-1 right now, but they're 4-0 in SEC play. And so if we're talking about just getting to the championship game, even if their only loss is to Texas, now you have 3 one-loss teams within the SEC, which made me go to the SEC championship tiebreaker scenario.
What do we have? Is it arm wrestling Greg Sankey?
Yes. Head-to-head is the first.
Okay.
So in that situation, what it would end up being is, since they will look at like who your mutual loss was to.
Well, you got advantage Georgia, right?
So Georgia, their loss is to Bama. Bama's not in this scenario, so there's no head. They went on head-to-head because they haven't played either one of those teams. Texas having lost to Texas A&M in this situation, or Texas having beaten A&M in this situation, there's your head-to-head. So then it would be Texas and Georgia in the SEC championship game.
Okay.
And so Texas A&M is kind of sitting out. Here's how I see the rest of the SEC. You got Tennessee right now, ranked 7th. They're 6-1, 3-1 in SEC play. They have Kentucky, Mississippi State, at Georgia, UTEP, at Vandy. I think they finish 4-1 down the stretch. So 2 losses overall.
To Georgia. Okay.
I think they're going to lose to Georgia. So that slaps them with 2 losses. LSU. We'll get into picks. I don't know how to not give away my pick for this week, but okay, fine. So I think they finished 4-1 as well, and I think they already have wins against Oklahoma and Alabama. They beat Arkansas, and I think they beat Oklahoma. I think they lose to A&M this week, and I think they lose to Alabama later. So that puts them with 2 losses. Alabama, the team that you're probably most interested in, who do they have left? They got Mizzou, you got LSU, you got out of conference Mercer, you got Oklahoma and Auburn. I think Alabama runs the table from this point forward. So you finish with 2 losses. Those losses.
You've named like 8 2-loss teams here.
Yeah, I know. I think that's that's the scenario. The way I kind of slated it out, I have. Let's see. I have 1, 2, 2 1-win, 1-loss teams. So that being Georgia and Texas, and I got 2-loss teams being Tennessee, LSU, Texas A&M, Alabama, and I got Ole Miss losing again.
They lose again to Georgia, yeah.
But yeah, those are your teams. So in that situation, here's how I got your championship matchup: Georgia, Texas, and I have your 2 playoff teams in addition. You're at large. I think 4 total will get in, including even the loser of that championship game. I got Tennessee and I got Alabama making the playoff.
Wait, what? So what happened to LSU? Because you didn't have them in the tiebreaker scenario, and you have them with 2 losses.
I have them with 2 losses, but it really came down to the fact that I think Bama's going to beat them.
Okay, and loss number 2 being A&M this coming weekend. Okay.
So if LSU
so this really could in these multifaceted scenario you laid out, that Texas A&M game last weekend of the season, rivalry weekend, could be a play-in game to the SEC championship.
Yeah. If A&M wins, then I think that they're going to be in the SEC championship game, and then even in that situation, I think Texas probably still gets an at-large. If you have a 2-loss Texas team and your 2 losses are to A&M and Georgia, the two teams in the SEC championship game, that might give you enough. But if A&M does not win, I just don't see enough on their resume with a Notre Dame loss and a Texas loss. That would mean that they're right. Their biggest win is LSU. I mean, they just didn't. They had a softer schedule in the SEC this year.
They did.
So I think that's going to come back to bite them. And we say all this saying we don't know, obviously, what the other conferences are going to bring. Big 12 right now, you got a lot of teams that are looking really good on paper. And the SEC is just kind of beating up one another.
Yeah.
And I think you're probably going to have a little bit more of that take place in the Big Ten as we move forward as well. So,
let me ask you this. Did you tell me again how many 2-loss teams you had? 6, I think? You had 5?
I have, let's see, Tennessee. I got LSU. I got A&M. I got Alabama. There. I got 4 2-loss teams and 2 1-loss teams.
Okay, but 16. Okay, can we agree?
So let's say if you have 6 teams potential.
Okay, cutoff for making the playoff being no more than 2 losses.
Yeah. So
right? So 6 teams that could qualify. So really, that's it's so interesting. I mean, because you're probably going to have, let's say, 4 SEC teams make it. So you're going to have 2 teams there with 2 losses that are left at home, and that would come down to who are your good wins, right?
Yeah.
That's probably the most important factor.
And that's where I think A&M kind of, if you have to go head-to-head like that, I mean, they just didn't play enough quality opponents.
So I think you're telling me Bama's in if we beat LSU. It really
you got to run the table.
Yeah.
You got to
Can't lose
to
Missouri this weekend.
No doubt.
That would be a.
But I think there's 2 big games. Obviously the LSU A&M game this week I think is going to have major playoff implications down the road, and then that Texas A&M Texas game at the end of the season. So
can we just salute the fact that and I know you'll point this out, that it took me a couple years to come around to the idea of a 12-team playoff, but here we are, been on board right there with you for the couple past seasons. The fact that we can here in mid-November have this conversation and really it's wide open for so many teams out there, still have a legitimate shot at getting in, whereas last year, 14 playoff, second loss, you were doomed. You were out,
I could see every power conference having both championship teams in. I could see that. I mean, I would not have said that at the beginning with the Big 12, but given the fact that at this point we're looking at a bunch of teams that have kind of how many undefeated teams do we have?
Well, Iowa State's undefeated and BYU is undefeated, and they're both in the Big 12. I think by the end of the season, I don't know if you have one undefeated team left really in college football. Not
even one, huh?
I don't think so.
How's my Liberty team? How are they doing? Have we checked in on Liberty?
Look,
Liberty.
They play the softest schedule in the world, and they have had to eke out some of those games. But you're right, they might be undefeated. What a wild season. Yeah. It's a crazy time when Navy and Army are both ranked in the top 25 for the first time since the end of World War II. Indiana's undefeated, and Vanderbilt's ranked number 25. Yeah. Isn't this great?
Yeah, the topsy-turvy world. We're in bizarro land right now for sure, but I think it's going to sort itself out. Here's what I do like so far, is that the 12-team playoff comes at the perfect time because every team looks like they have a weak spot. There's no invincible team right now. I mean, Georgia may get back to that, but I mean, they obviously have lost once at least. So we know that it's possible, and that's where it's like, man, even if you have a 2-loss team, if you got 4 SEC teams in there, I think it's reasonable to say any one of them could win it. Any one of these teams could win the whole thing. That's what I like most about it, is that it's just so compelling and it's going to be good TV. All right, coming up on the other side, we're going to get into some picks. We have our mystery picker.
Yes.
Is he waiting backstage? She waiting backstage? Is this person?
I'll dial him up.
Okay. Okay. This is going to be a remote interview. All right,
yeah.
Stay with us. The NODPOD and our pick segment coming up next. Welcome back to the NODPOD, and as we learned last week, Chris, you sometimes don't have to look very far to find some really good guest pickers. Last week it was Mariah, who's operating the jib camera right now. And this week, I'm pleased to introduce our guest picker. Fox 13 political editor Craig Patrick joins us. Craig, how I know that you've been kind of deep into the political world right now, but how do we feel about making some picks on some sporting events?
I feel pretty good. Let's give it a try.
Yeah, Craig, more accurate right now, the AP poll or some of the polling data coming out of the battleground states?
Oh, the AP poll for sure. You can't make hide your hair out of the polls right now. It really doesn't matter. They haven't been reliable the past couple of cycles. We just know it's going to be really close.
How about that?
All right. I love that. Okay. All right, let's jump right into this. We have a 3:30 kickoff on Saturday, a couple of top 25 teams. Out of the Big Ten, number 20 Illinois paying a visit to Eugene, Oregon, taking on the number 1 ranked Ducks. Craig, how do you see this one going down? By the way, I should mention Oregon favored 21.5 points.
Yeah, Oregon will win the game. They're the number 1 team. They haven't been for long, but 21 points, that's a lot for a team in Illinois that's had some quality wins that is ranked. I think you've got to go with the points. You've got to go with Illinois.
Okay. Are you taking the Illini and the points? I like it. You know, if Craig were picking, projecting the outcome of Amendment 4 on the ballot, I would ride with him. But in this case, I think the Illini are going to have some trouble stopping the Ducks. Yeah. Rushing attack. That's right. Dylan Gabriel's been great at quarterback, but I think the Ducks lean on the run. That Illini run defense has been shaky, and I think the Oregon pass rush is going to get home too. I'm going to take the Ducks in that big number. Ducks cover.
Yeah, for as good as the Ducks offense has been, I think you have, you don't like to look at the same opponents, but since it's recent, I think it's fair to look at the fact that Illinois went to overtime against Purdue. They gave up 49 points against Purdue, the same Purdue team that Oregon just shut out last week. So I think the Ducks defense gets after it. Illinois fighting Illini.
Yeah, sure.
Good night. Illini quarterback Luke Altmaier. I mean, this guy's been sacked a ton this year. I think Oregon gets to him as well. And on top of that, I did some geographical research, and Oregon has already planted its flag in the state of Illinois. There's a city called Oregon, Illinois, and that was the hometown of a gold medal hurdler Frank Loomis back in 1920.
Oh, yeah.
So I say that the Ducks hurdle over the 20th ranked Illinois, Fighting Illini.
Just call them Illinois. The Loomis Leap, they called it.
The Loomis Leap. Yeah. That's what we see. They cover the 3 tutties and a hook. All right, let's get into the SEC. We have 21st ranked Missouri paying a visit to Tuscaloosa, facing the 15th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide, coming off that loss last week. Bama favored in this one, Craig, by 13.5. How do you see it going down?
No, I see it going the other way, and I'm getting the gist of this. You justify why you're going with the team you're going with, so my apologies, the first one here. No, I'm going to go with Missouri.
Any reasoning you have at all is fine.
Yeah, I watched the first 3 quarters of the Alabama game versus USF, saw how that went. I saw the South Carolina game almost beat Alabama. Of course, we saw the Tennessee game last week. We also saw, among other things, the second half of the Georgia game. Time and time again, let alone the fact that Alabama is 0-2 versus the state of Tennessee and got roughed up by Vanderbilt. Not a fluke, mind you, got roughed up. All of that tells us there are challenges with Alabama. When you look at that spread, you got to go with Missouri.
Yeah,
Chris is right now. His temperature's hot.
No, he's preaching.
Hot.
He's preaching. I'm on the same. I'm reading from the same page of the hymnal there, Craig. I don't know why Vegas keeps giving Bama these big spreads. They were 3 touchdown favorites over Vanderbilt. We saw how that went. They were 3 touchdown favorites over South Carolina. Barely squeaked that one out. And the thing with Missouri, now, all of this is assuming Brady Cook is healthy. He got injured in that game against Auburn last week. It's supposedly a high ankle sprain, but if he plays, they have 3 receivers there that are going to give that Bama soft secondary problems. I think Missouri makes this close. I think Bama wins a narrow one at home, but 13.5 points way too much. So give me the Tigers there to possibly spoil Bama's homecoming.
Yeah, Cook, he went to the hospital during the game and then returned and finished the game. How incredible is that? Yeah, so if he does not play, that's obviously a factor. But as much as we've talked about Missouri's defense, they've looked great against teams like Murray State and Buffalo.
And Auburn.
Auburn. But against the SEC, they're giving up about 28 points a game. I think Jalen Milroe was abnormally bad last week. I think this is a big bounce back at home. And unlike you, Chris, I have faith in the Tide. I say roll Tide, big blowout win at home against Mizzou. All right, we got a little in-stater. FSU paying a visit down south to number 6 Miami. Miami 3 touchdown favorites, Craig. This is a Saturday night tilt. What do you like?
I know that Florida State didn't get off to the best start, but, they bounced back after Georgia Tech. They won that first big game, and then after that, I'm going to go with Miami.
Well played. Yeah, we keep waiting for Florida State team to wake up and show us something. Yeah. And they've switched quarterbacks a couple times. Quarterback's not really the problem, though. They are so soft along both lines of scrimmage. Miami's defense is not as good as I thought it would be, okay? They just had that shootout with Louisville.
Yeah.
But I think this is a chance for the Canes to get back home, playing a big rival, and for their defense to get right. This is the perfect team to do it against this Florida State. It's a big number, 21, but I'm going to take it. I think the Canes cover.
Yeah, last time Miami beat FSU was 2020, so it's now been 3 straight FSU wins, and the most significant in that 3 stretch was in Miami. Last time it was in Miami, it was a 45-3 rout by the Seminoles.
Wow.
That was Mario Cristobal's first year at the helm of the Canes, and he has not forgotten that one. Trust me, I think that the Canes can do it any number of ways. They can run it, they can pass it. They're good in a track meet, and this will not be a track meet because FSU doesn't have the track stars to compete. So I think this is going to be a big Miami win down at home. How about LSU, number 8 at 14th ranked Texas A&M. This is a Saturday night 7:30 kickoff. A&M slight favorites, 2.5-point favorites in College Station. Craig, we talked about earlier just how important this game was for both of these teams and their playoff hopes. How do you think it goes down?
This is a harder one to pick, but I've got to go with Texas A&M. I'm seeing a team that's playing extraordinarily well. Both teams are playing well, but I think in particular back to the Florida game where Texas A&M really had their way with the Florida Gators with a second-string quarterback. And you may say, okay, well, Florida's not that good of a team this year. They haven't met expectations, sure, but we've learned a couple things. First, Florida has improved throughout the course of the year, and 2, they have run up against some really good teams, and it looks as if Texas A&M is one of those really good teams, along, by the way, with Miami. All things considered, I think it'll be close. The point spread is close, too. I'm going to go with A&M.
Yeah, I'm with Craig again. I like that. Right. I think this is so these are the final 2 teams in the SEC that are undefeated in conference play. It's not a playoff elimination game, but as Scott was doing his
bloviating.
As he was bloviating earlier, we needed a flow chart for that, but this will be a huge game to decide who plays in the SEC championship game. I love the way Connor Wegman is playing now for the Aggies. He was shaky in the beginning of the season. He's really hitting his stride. And I just trust Mike Elko's defense to put together a really good plan. LSU's had some close calls. I think Ole Miss, they were lucky to beat Ole Miss. Ole Miss left a bunch of points on the field. I'm going to go with the Aggies at home.
Yeah, I think it comes down to whose quarterback you can keep upright. Is it going to be Nussmeier? Is it going to be Wegman? I think the Aggie pass rush is better, more formidable. And plus, I just think it's hard to win back-to-back games on the road in the SEC against quality opponents. LSU coming off a big road win last week. I think, to head into College Station and get it done there, I think it's going to be a tall test. So I'm going to take A&M at home to cover. And finally, Craig, we jump into the NFL. Falcons and Bucs this Sunday, 1 o'clock, right here on Fox. Falcons coming into Raymond James Stadium, 2.5-point favorites. How do you think this one goes down?
Well, I'd like to say the Bucs, but I've got to be clear-eyed too, especially after what happened in the Ravens game. I kind of think back to the Gipper speech. The team's up against it, and the Brakes are beating the boys, that's for sure, and you want them to go out and give it all they got and win one for the Gipper, but I just think there's too many questions. The defense seems to be very hot and cold, more cold than hot of late, and now you've got huge questions on offense with the loss of 2 star wide receivers. Mind you, just a couple of weeks ago, these teams looked fairly evenly matched. It went to overtime. Now I think maybe not as well matched. Given the circumstances, I think I've got to go the other way.
Okay. He's got Falcons.
Riding with the Falcons. Yeah, Craig, it's hard for me to get the image of that game where the Bucs went up to Atlanta and Kirko Cousins put up 500-plus passing yards on that Bucs defense at a time when he was still not moving very well in the pocket. But I don't think the Falcons defense is very good either. I think we're going to get a lot of points in this one. I think the Bucs, I alluded to this earlier when Scott and I were kind of saying, how do the Bucs move forward without Chris Godwin for the rest of the season and without Mike Evans for at least a few games? Lean heavily on that ground game. I can't wait to see what Liam Cohen schemes up there. And I think it could be a win-one for the Gipper moment, win-one for the Godwin. I'm going to go with the Bucs in this very important division game.
Battle for first place in the NFC South. This game is it's the biggest game of the season for them, and maybe all year. If you have that, you can't lose the tiebreaker to Atlanta in the NFC South. Look, I don't think 66 points was the combined total last time these two teams met. I don't think it's going to be that high score. I mean, I think it's going to be less than that, so I'll take the under, whatever that is. Kirk Cousins coming off a rough outing against Seattle, threw a couple of picks. I do think a Bucs gritty defensive effort gets it done and an emotional win at home. The underdog Bucs get the dub, and they split the series with the Falcons. That's my take. All right, Craig, who's going to win the presidential election?
Whoa.
It's a jump ball. It's a jump ball election. That's or a coin flip. It's going to come down to Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, as it always has all year long. I think the key state to watch is going to be Michigan. That'll be the tipping point state.
There we go.
And let me add one other point. I hope on the Bucs call that's one case where I hope I'm wrong and both of you are right.
There you go.
That may be the only case where he hopes that.
Very good.
Well, we appreciate Craig because he is spot on with all of his political coverage. He gets us through as a TV station. He gets us. He's a one-man machine. He pumps all of this stuff out. He is. I wish I had 1/100th of his brain. If I could just have that, I could be so much better at life. So thank you, Craig, for everything you add to our newsroom. You give us such credibility during election season. And get some sleep, buddy, because we're not going to know who's president at the end of November 5th. All right? Now, this is going to be those election lawyers are licking their chops right now.
I think you're right. I so enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me on.
There we go. Craig Patrick just made the NODPOD a little bit smarter. Thank you so much, Craig. All right, coming up on the other side, it's time to get dumber again. We got the NODPOD Gazette headlines. We're going to decipher fake from real news on the other side. Welcome back to the No Off Days podcast. It is time for our fun block. Let's bring in the maestro of fun, Brian King. BK, we've got headlines.
All these blocks are fun, man. Y'all are awesome.
Well,
come on.
Chris was telling me that I was droning on and on in our SEC college football block. So
I didn't say droning. I just said you needed a flow chart. It was a lot of...
It was. I wrote down a bunch of things. I'm like, that wasn't even like a half of it, too. So.
I loved it. He's got a beautiful mind.
It's very demented.
So does Craig Patrick, too. That
Craig
guy,
Patrick's awesome,
Yeah,
man.
he did great.
I was hoping he would give us our presidential pick.
I know.
He wasn't walking out on that shaky limb.
You ready for some headlines?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, you tell me if these headlines are real or fake. It got a little fall flavor to them. The first one is best of both worlds. Butterball is making a turkey this Thanksgiving and taking it to a whole new level by introducing it as pumpkin spiced flavored turkey. Ooh, yeah. Y'all know y'all like pumpkin spice. It's an unexpected twist of the traditional holiday bird, and it's set to tantalize taste buds with unique blend of pumpkin spices for the succulent turkey. Is this true or false?
A lot of adjectives.
There's a lot of adjectives.
Look up to read this segment. Well, I would say that makes sense on its face. A pumpkin spice turkey. I mean, we've kind of, but I feel like the pumpkin spice craze is like, that's like so 10 years ago. Not that it's not. It's still going. No, but I mean, if there was a time to capitalize on the pumpkin spice craze, it was probably years ago.
Right.
So why would Butterball sully its flavor now by saying? I mean, I don't think they do any type of flavoring to their birds because they want people to appreciate the turkey. Yeah. So I think Butterball, just on the fact that like they feel like they don't need to provide any of that kind of stuff, would not do that.
They would not lower themselves to that.
Right. And what do you do? Are you injecting the...
No, I think they get the turkey before it's slaughtered. They feed it.
Stuff it full of pumpkin
nutmeg.
pie.
Yeah, they put nutmeg in its food.
All right, get over here. Ha!
Another PSL, please, says the turkey. Oh, man. I kind of hope this is true. I might try it.
Does it sound good to you?
I
love pumpkin pie.
Yeah, I love pumpkin pie and I love turkeys. Just put the two together. I'm going to say in this crazy world we live in where someone's always looking for an edge, usually these things don't hit store shelves, but it's more a marketing gimmick so that news outlets like us might pick it up and read it. I'm going to say it's true.
Okay. It is absolutely false.
Yay!
No pumpkin spice turkey.
No pumpkin spice turkey.
Yeah, that sounds disgusting, by the way.
I
don't want my turkey. It's already genetically modified. I don't need it injected with nutmeg.
Yeah, I want to inject my own things in it. I don't want anyone else putting stuff in it. You know what I mean? You baste the turkey.
Okay, moving along.
All right, moving along. There's a pumpkin shortage out there. I don't know if you've noticed this. We've had all those high levels of rain in September and October, and it's resulted in a slug invasion. Not kidding you guys. It's damaging pumpkin crops all across the nation. Supplies are low, and the prices, you know what that means, it's higher. Experts suggest this Halloween for families to try using watermelons or pineapples as jack-o'-lantern substitutes. True or false?
That is awful, and that sounds like just the type of thing that they would do. You know what I mean?
The slugs?
Yeah,
let's go eat
those
all the
slugs.
pumpkins.
They don't care about us.
No.
No, that would make sense. But the problem is, I mean, are we talking about Florida's rain? Because I don't know. Is Florida like a thriving place for pumpkin farmers?
I think so.
That seems
We've got
like
the
a
watermelon,
up north type
big
thing.
watermelon farmers, but not pumpkins.
So
I think
I
most
don't
of
know.
the
Is everybody been above rainfall, or is it just us?
You're asking the wrong guy here.
It says nationwide.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna say yes. There has been a mass slug invasion, and that's their number one target. Is they want to ruin Halloween for everybody. Either that, or this is some diabolical plan by the watermelon industry.
That could be
you
it.
need to buy more watermelons.
Darn those, not banana slugs, pumpkin
So
slugs.
true is what I have.
Oh, yeah, he's got true. I think I would have heard of this because I'm seeing plenty of pumpkins around me. I don't know about you. My stores are full of pumpkins. Have
Really?
you? Yeah. Have you seen a lot of pumpkins around
No,
me?
I haven't.
I've seen a lot.
Where are you shopping at?
The pumpkin store down the street. There's one on the pumpkin outlet.
The Halloween outlet.
Yeah, Pumpkin Mart, all the pumpkin stores.
Punk.
Yeah, I'm going to say that this is false. I would have heard about this, and plus, you gave us way too much detail. No one's going to carve a jack-o'-lantern out of maybe a watermelon, but a pineapple, too many
Well, pineapple would be perfect because you can grab that bushy. It already looks like a head. You know, you got the bushy hair.
Yeah, but you got
up
those
top.
spiky things to deal with. You don't want to get.
It's easy.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to cut open a pineapple anyway? It's very simple.
I eat mine raw.
This is a very true story.
I'll say false.
Absolutely true.
Here we go. See?
Absolutely true.
We're skunking him.
I'm 0 for 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
So, but would you do that though?
No.
How much do pumpkins go for? What's the going rate?
No
Since
idea.
you see them every day. What?
I bought one the other day, a big fat one in Publix for like $15. Is that
Good
a lot
night.
for a pumpkin?
That's a lot.
But it was a large pumpkin.
What do you do? Do you carve it out and then you put the jack-o'-lantern face
In
there?
Florida, you never carve it until the day before Halloween, or else it'll be a melted puddle of black goo on your porch. But yeah, the day before, do we call that All Hallows Eve? I carve it, and I'm a great pumpkin carver too.
That's not something that your child does. You do it.
Get
out of the way.
It's a team
Give it to
effort.
Daddy.
You don't want the kid messing it up. Like I've got this perfect. I just carved Daddy's face into this pumpkin. Let's admire it.
There we go. Okay.
You want another one?
Yes, please.
I don't know the way this is going.
Oh, come on. You right here, Cato. This is for you. A twist on the turkey dinner. Instead of the traditional turkey for the family feast, how about pizza for Turkey Day? More specifically, a frozen pizza. DiGiorno has a pizza this Thanksgiving complete with turkey, gravy, green beans, cranberries, and those crispy onions.
Yeah.
Along with some mozzarella and cheddar cheeses.
It's the Gobbler.
That sounds good.
Gobbler's back at Wawa.
Company says it was a huge hit last November and plans to have it in more grocery stores this November. True or false?
So what's your base? Is it
It's the
mashed
gravy, right?
potatoes?
You gotta
or
do
is it
gravy.
Gravy's your
Gravy
base?
base?
I think it's on the actual crust kind of thing. I don't know if it's a...
Okay.
The crust should be a croissant, a crescent roll.
I mean, I'm
right?
intrigued. I'm intrigued by it. I don't know if it tastes any good, but
It sounds good.
Yeah, I'm gonna say DiGiorno is it's not delivery, and it's not really a pizza. It's a DiGiorno turkey twist.
It is, yes. Did you say green beans?
Green beans, cranberries.
Yeah, Can you get stuffed crust with like sweet potato casserole in there?
The
Like
AI
just jam
article
it
I
full
looked
of-
up. No, I'm sorry.
If you could stuff sweet potato casserole in there, I'm buying that. Even if this is a thing, we're getting this on this podcast. We're going to try this the week before Thanksgiving. But yeah, I think this is real. I think
You know
this
what they
is
need
real.
to do? They need to make. I don't even know if it's real or not, but I want to make it happen. If it's not, the crust should be like a croissant type crust.
Yeah, that's what I
like
was saying.
Like a biscuit.
Yeah.
Did you say that?
Yeah, I said
that's
that.
That's why
yeah.
I thought that.
Yeah, I said that. Yeah.
Okay, I was tuning you
They
out.
do have croissant
Yeah.
crust pizza, so that's a
Yeah.
natural. I'm going to say this is true, though,
it
and it's
sounds
delicious,
wonderful.
and we're going to get it. We're going to.
Yeah.
We've got an oven right over here.
Yeah.
Like
We're
20,
doing it.
20 feet that
Yep.
way.
Yep.
Absolutely true.
Yes.
How good does that sound?
All right, open up the slush fund. Let's go
Yeah.
pizza shopping.
Oh, I love it. We're gonna sample it for you.
I'm hungry now. We always tape this during dinner, and I'm starving now.
Okay. Do we have any more?
We got one more here.
Okay.
How about this? Green bean shake. See how hungry you still are? Given the popularity of their Shamrock Shakes, McDonald's will have for a limited time Thanksgiving shapes in the flavor of, get this now, green bean casserole.
That's vile.
This unexpected fusion of creamy ice cream and savory green beans is surprisingly tasty.
Savory. It'll save your soul.
Savory.
Yeah, let me save you a trip to the
They complete the treat
McDonald's.
with crunchy onions over the top of the whipped cream.
That
Gross.
is the most disgusting thing I've ever heard.
Everything you made me feel about that pizza earlier, you just took away.
Can you imagine? I mean, with the crunchy onions on top as well. There's no way that's true.
Do we agree that green
It's like
bean...
baby food. I mean, it's baby food.
It is. We agree green bean casserole is the worst Thanksgiving side.
No.
Way overrated.
No.
I don't know why people keep
No.
Don't
thinking.
stop making it, stop bringing it.
No.
But that's somebody's cheap attempt. Like that, like how much does a couple cans of green beans
It's so weak.
and some cream mushroom soup?
bad.
I mean, the whole thing couldn't have cost you more than $4.
Yeah.
And you're going to sneak that onto my Thanksgiving table? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Get out of here go get a pie. Bring a pie.
Sure.
That's always welcome. Green bean casserole's awful. No, this is not a real thing.
Yeah, and McDonald's would never do this to us, although they haven't had the best headlines in the last couple of days. But no, this thing doesn't exist. Fake headline.
It is absolutely fake.
There we go.
Cato
But
finishes strong.
you do like green bean casserole.
I love
okay?
it.
Yeah.
I love it, yeah.
Mariah, green bean casserole? She loves it.
She loves it.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, you're both
Okay.
not welcome to our feast this year.
Yeah, you guys have the palate of a 4-year-old. Okay, all right. Very good. Hey, that was good. I liked it. I'm glad that the NODPOD Gazette returns.
Yeah.
A nice little early.
I'm glad fall is here.
I know. It feels like it's here
Yeah.
a little bit more.
Get my-
We got to go get that DiGiorno pizza.
Let me get my pumpkin spice turkey here.
Stuff it full of yams. Yeah, that'd be good.
All right, BK, thanks. That was
All right.
fun. That was
Well, much thanks to our guest picker on this week's show, Craig Patrick. Made you guys a little bit smarter by having him on. Much thanks to we got Ronnie. Ronnie's back on the ones and twos.
Ones and twos.
He's got a brand new back and he's feeling good. Much thanks to Mariah on the jib, BK in the booth. For Chris, I'm Scott. Until the next time we're on, there are no off days.
I mean, it's just like a puddle of mayonnaise with green beans in it.